Let's move on to combat. So sometimes you'll have a charge at a 50-50 chance of success, and you may be wondering whether it's worth charging or not. Generally speaking, in that circumstance, 50-50 chance or better, always charge. You usually come out better in the long run. And the other thing is you may get the chance of charging 2 units at 1 unit, or charging 1 unit at the front of unit while the other one moves and then turns to face the flank of the other and then charges the following turn into the flank. If you can get the option to charge the flank the following turn, and of course the enemy isn't going to stop them from doing it, that's better, even though it will take longer to do it, and it means that on the first turn you only have 1 unit charging in combat. It's better to have a unit charging the flank and causing that disruption straight away on the next turn, rather than having 2 units fighting this turn. And another thing is when you're charging, try to put some shooting in beforehand. If the other thing that happens, of course, is when you've moved your infantry onto the flank of an enemy unit, well, any enemy infantry anyway, is they then get a -1 for being able to be charged by something in the flank on cohesion tests. So they're more likely to lose cohesion tests. And if you also sometimes you get the choice of charging straight ahead or charging a unit that's next to you, which is in a bit of trouble. So what you probably need to do when you see that unit in trouble is give it some assistance rather than continuing to let that unit fight on by itself and eventually lose the combat. You're better off sending in 2 units against 1, and what you do then is you charge this the second unit in, and then you do the combat on the original one, and then this combat will then be done with the 2-to-1 advantage. One of the most important things about combat is not to wait to the end of your turn and let them all run automatically. The order that they happen can have huge differences to the results. For instance, a enemy unit might rout and then cause other units around it to lose cohesion. So do your combats in order from the best odds to the worst odds. This also helps with your own units too, because if one of your own units becomes fragmented or routs and causes your own units to lose cohesion, that's bad for you. But if you've done the other combats first, then it will have less impact on you. When you're thinking about moving cavalry, remember the main feature with cavalry is their main ability is to move. So try and get them moving larger distances rather than just charging straight in. Try and get them into a flanking position. And so move them in preference to charging. And overall, your main objective is to fix and flank. So fix the front of an enemy unit to enable you to get a second unit into its flank. And finally, again, maybe I should do a separate video about generals. If you see an enemy general coming towards one of your units, see if you can't get your own general to be attached to that unit, so that when they do come into combat, neither of you gets an advantage. When you've done all your combats and your movements, the next thing to do is to go into your end of turn procedure, which basically means checking every unit that you think might have an extra turn left in it. So in this example, for instance, which is quite typical, there are 3 light infantry units that have done their bit. They've disrupted a Gallic unit, but when you check them afterwards, you find, oh look, 2 of them can still be turned, and one of them is got its side on to a massed rabble unit, and that mob, if it charges them in the flank, will probably catch them. So what you need to do is turn them. So you turn that one, and then you find that there's another one that's also shot, but it probably next turn won't have the same target. It should be facing towards the disrupted Gallic unit. So you turn that one as well. And that's the typical sort of thing you can find happening. So the end of your turn, you set yourself up for the following turn. Another thing you should do at the end of the turn is press Tab to determine if there are any units that haven't been moved yet, and also press B to check for units that have not shot this turn. You should charge or shoot enemy routers to ensure they don't rally, but don't let your troops be carried away in pursuit. Cavalry may spend several turns pursuing infantry, making them useless until the enemy routers go off the table. And keep a light cavalry unit floating around in the enemy rear to charge fragmented units and make them rout. Finally, let's summarize all of what we've said so far. So, when you begin the game, examine the terrain closely. Based on that information and the troops available in your army, formulate a plan and stick to it. Use this plan to decide what troops to recruit and where to put them. However, be flexible. It may happen that your supporting attack becomes the main attack, or that the delaying attack needs to be reinforced. Attack, attack, attack. The game rewards aggressive play. Do not give away the initiative by sitting around. Don't attempt to cover the whole frontage. Defend or ignore one part of the battlefield and attack where you are most likely to succeed. Use terrain to cover the flank where you are defending. Your main attack should have units in 2 ranks and most of the generals. Allocate generals to sectors in accordance with your plan. Recruit, deploy, and use shooting units in groups of 3, as usually 3 units are needed to cause a cohesion test. At the start and end of the turn, check for the location of generals and for opportunities to move them or to turn units. Start each turn with a check for fragmented or disrupted enemies and with shooting. Resolve all your combats yourself and do them in order from best to worst odds. Before charging, check for available supporting shooters or a general that could be moved to the charging unit. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to learn more about ancient warfare, why not have a look at my book, The Gods of Battle, The Thracians at War. This book covers many aspects of ancient warfare and is especially interesting in that it talks about the transitional period between the Greek hoplite style battle and the sophisticated armies of Alexander the Great. So there's quite a lot in there about light troops and cavalry, and not just about the Thracians.